I'm in the Navy. I'm in the Navy. Good morning, everybody. Mark David Smith here, having a little fun with what we're about ready to talk about. At least me so far. It's just me today, which can be fun in itself. So I will see you right after this.
I, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, do solemnly swear.
I, Dwight D. Eisenhower, do solemnly swear.
I, Barack Hussein Obama, do solemnly swear.
That I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States.
The Constitution of the United States.
The Constitution. The Constitution of the United States. So help me God.
The Constitution of the United States, of these United States. Many other nations and countries around this planet have constitutions. And it's interesting, what our country actually had one of the first constitutions ever made by a nation, and many other countries have just followed suit since then. Now, you can go to about any news source. You can listen to news on the radio or watch news on television. You can get your news from the internet, going to several different news sources, and they're just massive out there. I don't think anybody can even count how many news sources there are. As a matter of fact, the Lamb Network itself has created its own subsection called Four Corners News. And my point is that no matter what news service you go to, you're going to hear the word constitution, constitutional, non-constitutional. You're going to hear this expression throughout many different news stories. Not all of them deal with this, but I know this week I've mentally kept track of four completely different news stories that their main objective in the story was talking about whether or not this violation that made up the news story was constitutional or not. And, most of the time they just say it's not constitutional to do this. They shouldn't do this because it's not constitutional, or different ways to put it. But yet still, our Constitution, and whether or not one person or a group of people or even an organization is upholding that Constitution and or violating it, whatever. But now we have several people. For instance, I give you an example of the California pastor who has this big mega church, which is a big part of the news right now. And they actually came in and were going to shut down his church, and he decided to stand against it and violated the rule that you have to shut down your church, and told all his people to come in. They weren't going to have to wear masks. They weren't going to have to do social distancing and all that kind of stuff. And now we find out in the past few days that he has actually gone to court and charged the local government, the local people that are shutting him down, as this being unconstitutional. And they literally granted him the rights to open his church back up and do what he has to do. He's got another meeting on September 4th and going to court again, I guess, and they're going to decide specific things. But for now, it's unconstitutional. And so Once again, there are several stories out there that constantly deal with the Constitution. And so I would have to say, if you live in a country where they're constantly having to deal with violations and upholding the Constitution, maybe we should know a little bit about the Constitution. What do you think? What do you think? It will be the first to admit that I know very little about our United States Constitution. I could be walking down the street and somebody right in front of me be violating the Constitution, and I wouldn't know about it, most likely. I will tell you a really quick story. I was in Walmart one day, and there was this lady in the produce section that wore a T-shirt that I don't remember exactly everything it said, but it had the 4-letter word that starts with F that none of us say for any reason at all, but right across the front of it, it didn't like have F and the vowel marked out and other letters that you guys do. I'm sure you can figure this out, but it was literally in big letters across the front of her shirt. And it's like, man, I almost couldn't even concentrate on getting my groceries because this was just bugging me so much. It made me so mad. And but I refrained from going over and giving her a piece of my mind. For whatever reason, mostly I just knew she could care less what I had to say about it. But anyway, I didn't say anything, and I got my groceries, checked out, walked out of the grocery store, and I saw as I'm going to my car, I saw beside there's 2 cop cars, police cars sitting over there, over to the side. But I went ahead and went to my car, and as I'm unloading the groceries, I noticed that a lady police officer was walking kind of towards me, and I finished my groceries, got to get back and started to get into my car, and she was starting to go past my car to somebody behind me, and I said, do you have a minute? And she says, not right now, I have to do something, but I'll be right back. And so I waited there, and within the next 2 or 3 minutes, she finished whoever she had to talk to over there, came walking back, and she did stop, and she says, how can I help you? And I says, there's this lady in the store here, and she's wearing this shirt. There's got to be something wrong. There's got to be some law that's against. I just can't handle the fact that she can actually walk through the store and wear this T-shirt with this word just announcing, whatever. And the police officer says, it's constitutional freedom of speech. She has the right to wear that shirt with that word on there, and there is nothing you can say. She says, she actually finished up with say, I know it's ridiculous. I agree, but she does have the right. And I thanked her, and the police officer went away. But there you go. This is the day we live in. And quite honestly, I will admit, it just didn't even cross my mind that she constitutionally had the right of freedom of speech to put that on her shirt. Of course, we have the right to put whatever we want to and talk about God, and nobody ever says anything against stuff like that. But anyway, it riles me up. I can't handle it. Speaking of being riled up, let's bring her in here. Mrs. Riled Up herself. You don't ever get riled up, do you, Abigail?
I cannot lie. I am one passionate woman. No, I get stirred. I have to control myself a lot. And that, but I was saying it's interesting you're talking about that freedom of speech, because I was saying to James the other day, I said, you know what the problem is here? Because there's so much going on now with things that are happening, so many things being said. And I said, it has to do with freedom of speech. We've got this media, and we've got people that are lying. I mean, if anyone did their due diligence to find out what they were saying and really searched it out, they would say that they're just lying. They're just lying. And I said, but there's the freedom of speech. I mean, if they want to lie, I mean, they're going to be held accountable one day. I mean, they may not
Oh,
be.
yeah.
They may not be held accountable with the justice here.
Right.
And some of them may. It depends on if it gets to the point where they have to go to court, because we're finding out also that people have documented things, and a lot of people under oath have lied, and that's a serious situation. But the people that are just on the media, I mean, they're just lying about things. I mean, it's like they're twisting, and they're it's. And I say, this is freedom of speech, James.
Yeah, it is.
We're listening to this, and we have to be subjected to it. Like, you didn't like that shirt. Well, I have a hard time when I'm sitting back listening to people just outright lying. I'm like, where's the bar of soap? I would like to just run up to them and say, I'm going to just stick a bar of soap in your mouth, and you're going to be blowing bubbles for the next month. I mean, that's how do I get passionate? Yes.
Well, maybe in the Constitution where it says freedom of speech, right after speech, they should put in parentheses lying. Freedom of lying. You have the right to lie. You have as much right to lie as you have to tell the truth.
I know. No, it's to me, it's very disturbing, because I'll tell you what's happening, Mark. I'm getting a lot of I'm getting a lot of feedback from people, because I'm vocal about certain things when certain things I feel like need to be said. And I don't ever. I try not to ever accuse individuals, but what I'll try to do when they start saying, for example, I'll just be upfront with you. If I say anything good about President Trump, like I'm voting for him, or, I support him, I have people say, how could you do that? All he does is lie. All he does is lie. They say this to me. And so I'll say to them, the truth of the matter is there are people out there lying. And that's where people are getting their information about certain people. So people need to do their due diligence and find out, is this man speaking the truth? The man that told them that President Trump did X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
And then they come back at me and say to me, want to hear the twist? You're calling me a liar. I never called them a liar. I just said, you're listening to liars, but you need to do your due diligence. So anyhow, there's a war going on with words. There is a war going on with words.
Well, we also have the freedom to be gullible. So every one of us have been gullible, whether it has to do with politics or our president or people talking about him or whatever. We all have the right to do that too. So, hey,
Yeah, but the thing is, something, if we say, hey, the truth of this, Mark, is we reap what we sow.
Yeah, of course.
So if we're not going to do, because it says in the Bible, I mean, if we take the Bible as the Constitution, and the Bible says, if you diligently seek me, you will find me. And which means read the word. Oh no, read the word. Yeah, read the word. Study the life Emmanuel. This is your life. You know that program that used to be on years ago. This is your life. Well, this is your life.
Yeah.
And so if people study the Bible and do their due diligence, there's a thing. There's one of those wonderful gifts called discernment. And you'll have discernment, and you'll know right away. A flag will go up. There's something about the word that will get in your being, and you'll be like, this is someone's trying to dance, and they're not very good dancers. They're not Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers.
Goodness.
And what did Yeshua say? Yeshua said when he was talking to some people, he said, "You are from the father of lies."
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's right. Wow, that puts it in perspective, doesn't it? Very well said. Yeah, I like it. Good. You're right. You're right. You're right. Well, okay. Let's step down off the soapbox here. We'll get on with it. We are going with Article 1, Section 8. We've been on that for several weeks because there are just massive amount of things in all these with different clauses, and we're in Clause 12 this week. We've been covering the past few clauses in Article 1, Section 8 have been literally talking about monies and how the Congress has the power to regulate different things and how it works with our country as far as monies are concerned. And we had the last week, we weren't on last week, the week before we did, Congress has the power to declare war. So now we're getting into the military aspect of Congress and what they have the power to do. We talked about marquee and reprisal on the last one, and rules concerning captures on land and water, piracy. We talked about piracy, yes, in the last one. And there's so interesting to me that the things that I've learned in the past year, I guess, is so interesting, fun actually. A lot of different things. For instance, piracy and pirates keep popping up all over the place. And at the moment, I'm watching a documentary called The Curse of Oak Island. Though I wish they'd renamed it, because it's really not about the curse at all. There is this curse. Oak Island is an island in Nova Scotia. And it has years and years, 220 to 50 years of history on buried treasure on this island. And it is very well known. It's full of history, and it only has like 140 acres of land. It's really not very big at all, but it has just a massive history being on the coast of Nova Scotia. I guess if you look at the globe, you'll see that the trade waters between Britain and the United States, kind of went through that area. And apparently when the trade waters, with trade waters, you have pirates, and you have different people, not only from the original states and Britain, and they're going back and forth. Was a huge issue. But one of they should have just called this the Search of Oak Island or something, because what you have, and real briefly, is these two brothers that have more money than they know what to do with, and one of them actually bought most of the island. I mean, almost all of the island, so that they could come in there with excavators and drills and everything, and they're looking for the buried treasure. But the show is produced by the History Channel, and that's what I like. The History Channel comes up with these amazing shows, and I'm now on the 5th out of 6 season of this show, and they're constantly talking about the history of Oak Island. Well, it incorporates pirates and many British officers that had ships, and come to find out that our own Christopher Columbus, who we understand as looking for a new trade route to India, and his ship was full of spices, and this is what we're taught in school. Come to find out, the true history of Mr. Columbus is that he actually carried many shipments of gold and treasure, and he actually dealt with pirates on a regular basis. And there is a good chance that even Christopher Columbus stopped off at Oak Island, this small little island in the whole scheme of things, along with several other big, officiaries from Britain that were, of course, now we find out that Britain actually used privateers, and they're constantly talking about privateers, which really were pirates, legitimate pirates and that type of thing. And the armies thereof, of both Britain and the United States, they're constantly talking about what they're doing. One of the things I found out this past week is that if you were a slave during the Revolutionary War here in the United States, if you were a black slave, if you denounced your loyalty to the United States and actually joined the Britain Army against the United States during the Revolutionary War, then you could do that. And there was several slaves that did that. And when the war was done, these slaves, the one that were still alive, were actually given land and monies in Canada, which wasn't very far. But it's such an interesting historic story that has to do with all of that time era. And that time era was when we were forming our armies and we were dealing with Britain. And actually we weren't against Canada, but Canada was in between Britain. If you look, you can see like Britain up here, United States down here, and you have them going like this. Everybody knows when you're on a ship, you don't just go across the ocean. That's the longer way to go. You actually go like this, and that's the shorter route once you look at a globe. And so it's very interesting. I've been learning so much of history of even our early forming of our U.S. government and the Congress and our army. So Clause 12, all that being said, I just have to preface everything with what I'm excited about learning lately. Clause 12 says, the Congress shall have the power to raise and support armies, but no appropriation of money to that use shall be for longer term than 2 years. Now, in the research that I've done, the research I've done points out that our founding fathers were actually worried about the danger of what's called standing armies, the kind of permanent professional armed forces that they felt been used by the British monarchy to oppress them before the revolution. So one of the reasons that our forefathers that started, the people behind you, Abigail, that actually started our country, the whole idea is that Britain had what's called standing armies. Now, a standing army is a permanent, often professional army. It's composed of full-time soldiers who may be either career soldiers or conscripts, meaning enlisted people. It differs from Army reserves, who are enrolled for the long term but activated only during wars or national disasters, and temporary armies, which are raised from the civilian population only during a war or threat. In other words, they bring them in threat of war and disbanded once the war or threat is over. Standing armies tend to be better equipped, better trained, and better prepared for emergencies, defense, deterrence, and particularly wars. So basically, standing armies is your regular army. So when you enlist into the military service, you are enlisting into a standing army, and that is a specific term to differentiate between like our other military forces that we have, or even privateers that are out there, because these people are literally, if you join the army, you now are paid, but you live in that environment. You are part of that environment. You are trained and live in that environment. You are paid. You are now, because you're paid, you are now owned by the U.S. government when you're in a standing army. And apparently the founding fathers were in fear of Britain's standing armies, because they were so we know that our forefathers left Britain because they wanted the right to worship whoever they wanted to worship, and they wanted to have the freedom of religion and not be under the rule of the Catholic Church, which we also understand was also the rule of the armies of Britain too. It's you look at the monarchy of the Queen and the Church were all in, and still to this day is still in charge of religion, the military, everything. All of that works all together in Britain. And so we wanted the freedom to divide that up and not have to be under any specific military rule for our religion, and our religion stands alone from military and those type of things. So anything you want to add there, Abigail, before I go on? Anything?
No, I totally agree. I love it. I love the system that the United States of America set up. I totally agree.
Isn't it interesting, though, that they did this and we had such good, mature men and women. I'm sure there were women involved, but people that could put something together like they did 200 and some years ago that still stands today as the Constitution, and still works today, even though we have to tweak it a little bit here and there. It still stands very well equipped.
Yeah, that's one thing I have to say about the armed forces. The military, that does still stand today. I mean, out of all the things in the Constitution,
right?
There's other things that they stand, but they have to be tweaked a little. But I believe the military aspect of the Constitution is solid, because it still stands because we still use it. The military is there for a purpose. It was designed for a purpose as a means of defense, but it was also a means of training. Training young men and women for warriors for defense. And for the most part, unfortunately, there were people that didn't respect it in the later generations, like where we are today. But I have to say, President Trump has always been a strong supporter of the military. And I appreciate that, because it's needed, because it's just like borders are needed. We need borders to determine a nation. I mean, that's scriptural as well as, so I'm thankful. I love this part of this Constitution, because at least it's something that, the pirates, when we talk about pirates that week, there was, I just kind of yielded to, okay, we don't really see the pirates running around after us anymore, and we have to walk the plank. But there are pirates. It's the airwaves, they're still on the sea, but it's the airwave. But anyhow, but the military is, other than when it was first set up, we didn't have the Air Force. We didn't have the air.
Right.
so that we've advanced, but
Yeah.
it's still a very valuable part of our Constitution. I love this.
No, it's great. Actually, what you just said there kind of follows along with what we're saying is that you have to tweak some things every once in a while because we progress. I mean, when they put this together, they didn't have airplanes. It's like if somebody walked up and said, "Okay, we need to add an air force into our armies," and they're going, "Okay, what is that? Slingshots or something? What?" Anyway. You're right. That's so good. Very good. So should I now? The Democratic convention's been going on for a couple of days. Is that up by you? I didn't know where's that being held. Do you know the Democratic convention?
Well, I mean, it's all over the place because it's done via. It's on the.
Oh,
yeah. So everybody is doing like Michelle Obama.
really?
She did her presentation 2 weeks ago, even before
I'll be darned.
The woman. Yeah. I like to call her Chameleon, but I know her name is Carmela. I think her name is, but I call her Chameleon. Just saying, and no reflection on anybody else.
Yeah.
But yeah. So it's all done via.
It's all virtually done now.
Virtually done.
Is that right? Well, see, there you go. That shows you how much I follow this stuff. So,
guess what? We haven't watched one iota of it.
That was my next question. Are you following it real close? Because I know you're a big Biden fan, and you're probably going to, even though you talk about Trump all the time, but I'm pretty sure you guys are voting for Biden.
I'm going to have to stick Lammy on. Yeah, no, we actually, we catch up on the news, and that is enough to cause me to get passionate. But there's no surprises. I mean, when we hear all the different takes on different people and what they're saying, I'm like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Again, I just want to repeat: the father of lies is working in it. I have to say it. I just have to say it. It's just so. I've never seen such a contrast in the parties as we're experiencing during our generation. There's been a contrast, but the contrast now is so obvious, and it's
getting ready for world division. It's the United States being the biggest, most influential country on the planet. We have division. The world is watching our division, and it's going out. Anyway, going back to standing armies. We kind of covered that. We understand what a standing army is. It's the military based force. Speaking of the United States Army, from its formation in 1775, the Army has been the primary land-based part of the United States Armed Forces. The Army's main responsibility has been in fighting land battles and military occupation. The Corps of Engineers also has been a major role in controlling rivers inside the United States. Now, that's a general term there. Obviously, I copied and pasted what I was looking at, but Corps of Engineers, I've always had a general idea of who they were and what it's all about, but in research here, I've got a couple of notes that I want to put forth. Maybe people out there that don't follow this stuff and know this stuff. I didn't, and so it's interesting to me. The United States Army Corps of Engineers is an engineer formation of the United States Army that has three primary mission areas: Engineer Regiment, Military Construction, and Civil Works. Military engineering is loosely defined as the art, science, and practice of designing and building military works and maintaining lines of military transportation and military communications. So, in my understanding, you have the standing army, which is literally the people in the army that is trained to do military work. In other words, if there's a battle, then they go to battle. They're the front lines. They are the people that are fighting. You come down to also within the military forces, and right now we're talking about the Army, you have the Corps of Engineers that you have to have everything behind the scenes. You have to be people that plan what they're going to do, when they're going to do it, what are they going to use, how are the bases put together, all of that, which is formed by the Corps of Engineers, which are maintained by the U.S. Army. Now, we all always know that our military forces use outside people. They use privateers to help. But within the Army, to keep the integrity of our military, each one of them each different, the Army, the Navy, the Marines, and the Air Force all have their own Corps of Engineers that help keep that integrity within the military. And as they build these things, their tanks and everything else that they put together, it has to be maintained and regimented by the actual military itself. So that's the way I'm understanding what they're talking about. So, Corps of Engineers are the workings of the Army. Military engineers are also responsible for logistics behind military tactics. So you have you got different things like military engineers, combatant engineers, and the combat engineers come from throughout the service and can be active duty, National Guard, or Army Reserve. And so you have your standing army, which is ready to go and is equipped by the United States Army. But then you have your National Guard and your Army Reserve that is not part of that standing army. They are not a career people. Now, National Guard does have career people that are involved in it. I have a really good friend by the name of Chris Matthews that just retired from the National Guard, and his whole life has been a part of that. But he goes in and out of service. It's not like he is constantly a part of the standing army. So very interesting to me. Now, going back to the beginning, the Continental Army was founded in response to a need for professional soldiers in the American Revolutionary War to fight the invading British Army. So we're talking about the original army put together, and then as it progressed, became the Army, the United States Army of today. Until the 1940s, the Army was relatively small in peacetime. Established by a resolution of the Congress on June 14th, 1775. It was created to coordinate the military efforts of the 13 colonies in their ultimate successful revolt against British rule. The Continental Army was supplemented by local militias and volunteer troops that remained under control of the individual states or were otherwise independent. So you had your Continental Army, which was the original United States Army as we know it today, but they worked with local militias, which were privateers. They were a private group of people that were volunteers that were under the control of each different state and were very independent, but they did work with the Army. They worked with the Continental Army whenever a conflict would come up. The Army would get a hold of these militias that were they were organized. Today, a lot of these militias are not so organized. They're just a bunch of people that are a lot of what we hear about militias today are more against the government and stand against the government than actually work with the government. So back in 1775, in those early years when all this was put together, a local militia was working with the U.S. military, the U.S. government.
Yeah, and I love. To me, it just blesses me when I've known a lot of people who have been made careers out of their in the service. My grandfather was in the Navy. We're not talking about that, but he made a career out of it, and he worked his way up to an officer. My father served in the service too. But it's interesting now. The service you talk about it back then. Now you can have it as a career, like science, technology, engineering,
Right.
mathematics, all kinds of areas you can make a career out of being in the service. And what I find out too in this generation, personally, I think it's a great way. I would rather see my son or my daughter, if they were like at a crossroads of what they didn't want to do, when they got out of hhigh school, I'd say join the service.
Yeah.
Because you can learn discipline, and it's definitely instead of putting someone in jail with some kind of a situation, have them join the service. No, really, because it teaches discipline. I know.
How much do you know about my life, Abigail?
But I know. I mean, you as well as others that I have heard. And I can't help but every time I see someone in the reserves. Speaking of the reserves, the other day I was in the supermarket and waiting in line, and these two men in the reserves walked by, and me and this other lady said, "Thank you for serving. Thank you for serving." And we said it loud, passionate, and because when you hear the word serving, service,
right,
and to me that just does something to the core of one's being.
Right.
If you become a servant in defending, your country, defending the people in your country, and that's a requirement in Israel, the IDF.
Right, exactly.
At a certain age, they have to it's part of they go right into the IDF, the men and the women, the young men and young women. So I think I think it's wisdom. It's just a lot of wisdom, because what does a young person, 18 years old, know about anything really? That's just even up to 20, over 20, I say, you can really learn discipline, submission. When you become a part of the service.
Very true.
There's a lot of you make your bed. Oh my goodness, make my bed. And have clean clothes, polish your shoes, be on time. So anyhow, you would think that would be a character trait in your home, but not necessarily, especially in the lifestyle that we're in. So I just see this part of the Constitution. Can I tell you, it makes my heart leap. It makes my heart leap because I really believe I wanted to join the Waves. There was a time when I was in high school, it was either going to be the Peace Corps, the Waves, or Wave.
I'm waving at you.
Something. I just felt like I just wanted to serve. That was just an attitude that I had in high school. And something else transpired. And anyhow, that's another story. You can read my book. It's in my book. But anyhow, so we make choices. But here's something that troubles me right now with what's going on in our military. I think they've let their guard down to a degree. I think something has happened because do you remember hearing all the different? There was several shootings that took place, I think, at the Pentagon, and it actually took place in other areas of people who young men were serving. They were in the military to defend and serve, and they allowed certain people to become a part of the United States Army, and they ended up being terrorists within the army, and so they killed a lot of people. So
Yeah.
I don't know whether things have been watered down or weakened, or because of the day that we're living in. Because
Right.
during back when this
Right.
here was developed in the 1700s, the terrorists that the people that came over to start the United States of America, they were fighting against primarily England, right? It was England,
Right.
their
Britain.
yeah, that Britain. So that was their enemy. But nowadays, look at how look at the vast amount of people that are in United States of America, and so I'm just wondering, where does the Constitution come in regarding vetting the people who are serving in the military? I mean,
Yeah, that's it's actually there. It's a part of let's see, what did we talk about? Doggone it, I just saw it. I just saw it. I can't think of now where it was. Maybe it's in it might be in 14. Okay, the Congress shall have the power to make rules for the government and to make rules for regulation of the land and make rules for naval forces. So Congress has the power. That's clause 14, has the power to make rules for the government, and that is the military. So they have, hey, it's up to them to maintain specific things or change those laws, change those requirements, that type of thing. And the whole nation has gone on a lackadaisical way of looking things because, Abigail, everybody has rights. Everybody has rights. And because everybody has rights, if you are a man and you want to be looked at as a woman, we have to look at it that way. We have to bow down to that right to be that way. And even the military, I mean, remember, don't ask, don't tell. Well, it's all a part of that, and it just progresses into each and every different stage, and it comes down to what you're talking about is that there is only so much that because of the rules and regulations built by the rights of people, and that includes the rights of people that are Muslim extremists. They have rights. If they're an American citizen, they have rights, and you can't question that. Who knows what's in the mind of man? Who knows? And of course, throughout history, we've seen how people infiltrate different military systems because they have rights. Go ahead.
Yeah, but there was, I mean, and I hear what you're saying, but see, this is what this is where I believe our nation right now, where we are today, has watered down the understanding of what the military is all about.
Yeah.
And I'm going to just say the military, because the military has to have a certain backbone and also a heart to serve the United States of America. It has to have a heart to want to serve what the United States of America stands for, and understanding what the America stands for. So here's another area. So like if you were a young man years ago, I remember this years ago, if you were too tall, or if you were too short, or if you were too heavy, you couldn't be a part of the military. I think it was height, weight, and even a shoe size. I remember they were during a time when they were recruiting people for war. and some people got out of it because of their shoe size or because of their height. And I guess because, if you were in a submarine or something, you'd have to be able to fit inside certain, plus where they sleep and everything, they have to think in terms of that. But then let's think about it like this. Why can't there be some type of a psychological test, or even get even deeper, asking an individual their allegiance, if you will, to this country? I mean, there are ways of vetting people. And I know that people can lie. People can say they know the history and they can lie. And then they get there and their agenda is to kill people in the service and while they're serving. And that's what's happened. But I really believe, Mark, that we're at a point in time where we're not taking law seriously. We're not taking the law of the Constitution seriously, obviously. We're not taking the defense of this nation seriously. Because I heard someone interviewed last night, and again, it just caused me to get so stirred, because the scripture, vengeance is mine, says the Lord. But there's a lot of people that are trying to take vengeance for themselves out on situations that happened hundreds of years ago. And now we don't do those situations anymore. We've been delivered from that particular mindset. We don't have that same issue going on. But some people got something hidden in their heart. And I'll use an example of slavery. And some people got that in their heart, and there was a distorted message in schools on their history, because history's been perverted in schools now. You send your child to a high school, and they're not getting the same history that I received when I was in high school. It's been perverted,
Right.
and twisted. So a young man gets in there, and they start reading all about these things that happened to their people, if you will, and they carry that offense in them. They're offended.
That's right.
And they carry it with them. And that's what's happening now, Mark.
I agree.
Streets. It's vengeance. And it's like you can say to somebody, but that was then, and this is now. Things have been different. No. And they're justifying what's going on, the chaos that's taking place. They're saying people have a right to do it because of what took place 100 years ago or 50, however long it was that the manifestation of things were healed. The emancipation of a proclamation was taken care of by Abraham Lincoln. There was a healing. Right. And so I'm just saying that, when we're dealing with human beings, and that's why I love if you will, the old days where, children were raised with the Bible, or they were raised with an element of truth.
Sure.
I mean, let's just, and we're missing that. And so truth to me has light. Truth has light. Right. And it'll keep all of us. We all need it, because we can all go off on our tangents. We could all say, yeah, but everyone, if we went around a table, everyone would have something to say. But people their minds are in darkness. And the Father gave me the other day a title: Exposing the Darkness and Revealing the Light. So what we need today is an honest way of bringing forth truth to expose darkness. And this goes back to the vetting of soldiers. There's a way of exposing darkness in a person's thinking. There's a way of, asking the right questions to a person, and that'll expose what's hidden in their heart. And then there's also a way of revealing the light in a person, or giving the light. So I think when we read this right here and we talk about where is the Constitution actually being implemented according to what we're reading, it's not, unless somebody is caught. Like right now, we're finding that the exposing of darkness now,
exactly,
causing people to have to go before the Congress, because We have this text. We have this email. We have this on video that you said this.
Yeah, right.
We found out it's different. So the darkness is being exposed.
Right.
And the light is being revealed.
Yeah.
But it doesn't happen until after the fact. A lot of damage has been done. So you mentioned it earlier, Mark, about the world being divided. Well, I believe that what is written in the Word is the world system is going to go down the tubes, and the kingdom is going to be revealed. I believe that we may be ushering in our Messiah.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
I
I know exactly what you're saying.
And I'm thankful that we have this. Is that a truth or what?
Oh, yeah, of course it is. You're dead on. I'm with you 100% here. Well, a couple of things that I was thinking of while you were saying that is that, first of all, you know that you can't sue the military. So in other words, if there's something that happens to you when you're enlisted into the standing army, and you're, I don't know, they do something or say something, you can't sue them for anything. It's illegal to sue the military. What you're talking about, to me, it seems to be more of an appearance. So why have they become lackadaisical? Because of the appearance of evil, the appearance of different things that are going on within the military. Hey, it's all tax funded and it's by the people. And if the people don't like it, then what you're doing, then you have to change. And I believe that has a lot to do with why the military has laxed off in the past few years, is that appearance of evil. And it's not evil, but I mean it's appearance to the national public of what they want. The military wants to maintain an appearance that gives rights to the people in the military. I don't know. That's just my thought off the cuff of what it is. But
I think I'm glad you said thought, because that's the problem. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. And I think we have a lot of people, again, we're not all on the same page, and we're not all on the same perspective.
Right.
There's people in Congress that are, number one, they do not respect the military the way they should. That they don't respect the military. There's other people that have that are against military in battle.
That's right.
And I understand.
Well,
and but the thing is, and there's also people, and I agree with this. Our soldiers should not be in every single country. Our soldiers should not be policing every single country.
Yeah, I get it. There's a little iffy going on that one, because the more you find out that our so-called allies that may not be our allies do have their military in every country and are buying up military bases and things like that. We need to be able to defend our allies and defend ourselves. And the more we pull back in where we have our military, opens us up to conflict that we don't want to be in. So I am a little bit iffy on that. I think that we should be wherever our allies allow us to be. We should be there, and we should also allow our allies to be here.
See, this would be an interesting debate, but
I agree.
But I just think that I think it has to do so much with the mind of people today. I just believe that what does it say in Romans? And I have to bring the Bible always into this play, because it says, "Do not be conformed to this world,
right?
But transformed by the renewing of your mind.
That's right.
By the word. So if people don't have the word in their mind, they're not going to have the right reasoning when it comes to looking at things. They're
Right.
going to see things because it opens up to other thought processes that are not lining up with the word. So I think that we are in a situation like this because look at how badly, and I know you can relate to this. I know you can definitely personally relate to this. The veterans are treated when it comes to health care. I mean, it's changed now. There has been some changes, but we've known of veterans that have not been able to see doctors until President Trump. He changed it. I'm thankful for what President Trump did for our veterans because they deserve to be taken care of. And I've said for a long time, I think Congress should live in bunkers. I don't think Congress should have the pension they have. I think they should be living in bunkers. And I think they should have the same benefits as those who serve in the armed forces. I think their mentality would, because
there's a lot of things we've even learned, Abigail, from things that they get $140,000 a year and don't have to show up for work. Sorry, there's lots of things. Go ahead. There's a lot of things that they
develop all these health care things,
right?
Yet they get free health care. They don't have to worry about their health care. So, but the bottom line is I believe that there definitely needs a paradigm shift. And the only way that happens is repentance, teshuva. I mean, can I say his ways work?
I agree. And I'm not laughing at you.
No, but the Father's ways work. You're looking at somebody, I tell people this all the time that, if it weren't for the word of God, if it weren't for the word of Elohim, if it weren't for his word hidden in my heart, right. If it weren't for me being totally a fanatic about it, I'm totally sold out on his word and living his word. Uh-huh. And I tell them this, I'd be in a fetal position right now between the sheets of my bed.
Yeah.
And I'd be rocking back and forth.
Yeah.
Because the word is in my heart and in my mind, and because I live for the word and because I know he's with me, the perspective and the wisdom and the courage and the zeal for life is one of the attributes of saying, I know your ways work. And we're dealing with a human race that hasn't teshuva, hasn't repented.
Sure. It's the only thing that keeps us sane.
Exactly. And so there we have this Constitution that is trying to hold everything together. We've got this wonderful Constitution that's not obeyed and that people have a different perspective on it. If we had certain people in this right now on your broadcast here, if we invited some of the members of Congress to be on this broadcast with us and ask them, so what does it, how do you see this? How do you interpret this today in your place of Congress? When you start evaluating laws or having to make adjustments with the military, I guarantee there would be a royal battle going on here.
Yeah.
Because
let me just say that I actually have invited my state representative to come on the show right on here. They never wrote me back. I guess we're just too little of anything to even respond to, but I kind of like the guy, I was actually put off by the fact that they didn't even respond to my email. So anyway, I get you. I'm with you. I'd like to hear from
this guy, Jeff Kuna. He's from Boston, Massachusetts. Jeff Kuna. He's called the bulldozer of he's a bulldozer with
the information.
He's on the radio. He's okay. And you should invite him and see if he would come on.
Get me the information.
I will, and I believe he would come on. And he is a man that stands up for righteousness. I mean, he is gathered around the State House of Massachusetts, fighting against certain things that they're trying to implement. I mean, he's not backward about being forward. So I think we would have some really very good conversations. He's not Messianic, but he's a righteous man, and he's standing up for righteousness.
Sure, I get you.
And he's fighting the barbarians.
Right. Well, I'm with you. I don't disagree with what you're saying. When it going back to what you were talking about, you didn't think our military should be in every country. Now we know that China is buying up old military bases, and they are setting up their presence all around the globe. And of course, we don't have any idea yet. We don't, as the everyday citizens of this country, we have not been basically informed of their intentions. But I have heard news reports. John Craig and Sandy Craig keep up on a lot of this stuff, especially China and stuff, and they say that they are gearing up for a conflict, and for a lot of different reasons. And I just believe that, if these countries that China is set up in, and they're also set up in countries that are not our allies, that if they have a presence around the globe, we should also have a presence around the globe. It's a weak point not to take advantage of what we can do when it comes to a military conflict. On the other hand, I think we're actually getting very close to non-combatant wars. And I believe that we are gearing up more for technology wars rather than combatant wars. You can have military bases, and you can beef up our military. I have all kinds of statistics on what we have here, what we have in our military and everything, which is pretty massive. But seriously, I think that we know that China is somebody that we also know that they're working with people that are not our allies, and they're working with our allies. So, I just don't know. I don't know enough about it to even, debate with you or even bring up an opposing side. This is just my opinion based on what I've heard. Is that I don't find it wrong for our military to have a presence, to have a visual presence to the world that, hey, we're here. So anyway, that's my opinion.
I think there's a difference between having a presence and policing them. I don't think that there's a difference.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And I think but there's some countries where they expect the American soldiers to police their people.
Yeah, sure.
And some of the our people are being killed because of it. Because it's in a very combative place, and I really think, and it needs a major adjustment, and there have been some adjustments. I mean, one thing I have to say strongly, that President Trump has provided for the military wonderful aircraft. He's upgraded everything. When he came into office, he had the aircraft and everything that was in the military was not maintained. It was old. It was archaic, and they were putting our soldiers in harm's way just by what they were having to deal with. And so he saw the need that our military needed help. They needed help in being able to do their job. And
but see, we even read here in the Constitution right now, what we're reading is clause 13, the next one. We're on clause 11, but 13 says Congress shall have the power to provide and maintain, a Navy. But it's the same thing with the Army. They have they have the power to raise support for the armies and maintain them. So it's not the president's deal. He could rise up and say, "Hey, Congress, you're not doing your job."
And that's what he did. And
Yeah,
that's exactly what he did, because for 2 terms, nothing was maintained. There was no respect for the military. It was almost like they were putting them, they were weakening their defense. And as a result of that, Benghazi, as a result of that, other areas that were our soldiers were in harm's way. There was a lot of very, very serious disasters that took place with our military. The Pentagon, when the terrible shootings that took place with certain people that were in the military that didn't have a love for the United States of America, weren't there to defend America, had another agenda. So it's just a matter of who's in office too, because the president has a great deal of control, and appoints generals and has contact. If the president loves America, if the president wants to defend America and stand for and be on guard against those who do not love America and want to destroy it. So there's a lot of history that's written, and people can go back and search different areas of how the military was either supported or neglected. And so for 2 terms, the military was neglected badly.
yeah,
And you can ask anybody who was in the military during that time.
yeah.
And they'll tell you it was a bad scene. I mean, it was really, and even I'll never forget this. Oh my goodness. It was 1983. I'll never forget this. And you may have seen the movie, Hotel. What was it called? La Hotel Luongo or something. I can't even.
Oh, yes. I know which one you're talking about.
And that was going on in 1983.
Hotel Rwanda is.
Yes.
Yeah. Good one.
Terrible.
Yeah.
Executions, and I mean, and the movie was very
informative. Yeah, it was
very destructive. I mean, it was, but that was going on, Mark, in 1983,
Sure.
and no one even knew it. You didn't know. I mean, people. I'm just saying. I'm saying I didn't. I wasn't. I was hallelujah. I was praising, and I was having a great time with my relationship with the King. But I wasn't connected with what we're connecting with now. I'm giving you applause because I'm saying I was very connected with spiritual. I was I somewhat political, but not a whole lot. I was on my part of my journey was more me getting spiritually connected. But anyhow, but then, and James said to me, because we were married, and he said this was going on, and it was during President Clinton's administration. And these people were dying. Oh my goodness, it was horrible. There were so many things that were taking place that we weren't aware of it. I mean, I know there were some people that were aware of it. I'm just saying the public, like we're aware of things now, we weren't cognizant of it. And we found out later. And and it had to do with the military, Mark. So I'm so thankful that you're exposing this aspect of United States of America and what this country was founded on, and the men and women of this country. And I'll say men and women. It may be men that all signed it and wrote it, but I know behind every good man is a woman.
I attest to that 100%. I would not be where I am today without my wife. That is 100% fact, no question about it. So, you're very good.
And so I know that there's influence here by the but so this is such a great, and I know we've absorbed this and talked about this, but it really does zero in on the military and the respect for the military and the need for the military. We hate to think about it. but also to protect the military and to maintain the military, and to provide.
Sure. Sure.
So thank you
Well,
for doing this.
good. It's good. Thanks for your input. It's right on line exactly what we're talking about here. Very good. It's time to break it down and go on. Next week we're going to talk about the Navy. I got a lot of really good notes about the Navy. This is somewhat exhausted the Army part of all this, which is really good. We talked about the military in general today. With me, I was in the Navy for 3 years, a little less than 3 years, and I joined because I did get in trouble with the law. And my father actually went to the judge and got it to the point where if I went into the Navy, then the charges would be dropped and that type of thing. And I didn't want to go in, and I was scared to go in. And it was literally a changing of my life by being in. The number one thing I still say to this day, the number one thing that I got out of being in the service was that they put me through things that I never would have put myself through. And it taught me that I can endure things that I just didn't realize I could. I would have gone through life not doing a lot of things that I've done because I wouldn't have had the confidence to do them. The military, the Navy gave me the confidence to go through things. That being said, the military is not for everybody. There are a lot of people out there that I don't recommend. I've met people in my life that I would say I would not recommend them being in the military no matter what, for a lot of different reasons. But like you were talking about, your family, children or whatever, 18, 20 years old or whatever like that, I highly recommend a lot of them should do this. But once again, it's an individual type thing. It's not across the board. So anyway, I am the person I am, and I almost daily do things and have the integrity that I have based on what I learned in the military, and that's been 40 years ago. So it's one of those things. But very good. Thanks for all your input, Abigail. Oh, hear ye, oh, here. Appreciate you so much.
I appreciate
and
you, Mark. Brad Scott, his memorial was absolutely off the chart.
Thank you. Thank you.
You did a phenomenal job, and
thank you.
Again, kudos to you, because it was
Appreciate that.
Well done, and everybody that participated, and it was and Carol. Oh my goodness,
Yeah.
that she endured it all, and it was so needed. It was just such a needed time to reflect.
Yeah, the word closure was used many, 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 many times. I got a lot of emails about it, all of them positive, all of them talking about closure. It was very good. It was a tremendous. You've been a part of the Lamb Network almost since the beginning. You've seen a lot of the events that I've organized and put together. And I'm telling you, this was the most intensive work that I've ever put into anything. But just as even you're being grateful for me putting the show on and the work that I put into different things like this, I am beginning to come with the attitude, just like with the memorial. I have the means to do it. Why wouldn't I? And I just wish more people that has the ability that have the ability to do things and don't do them. You have the ability and the means to do them. Why wouldn't you do them? You know, so to me, it's a given. I don't see it any other way. It's not even an option to me. You know, I have to do it.
Yeah, I love it, Mark, because to me, I'm that type of individual too, and
yeah,
I love to gather.
I know that.
I love to gather with people. I love to hear
Right.
people's perspectives. I like to iron sharpening iron. And the one thing that I heard the thread when James and I were listening to it was, and this is what I couldn't stop saying every time I was announcing this about Brad Scott, was his legacy. Because
Yes.
the truth of the matter is that should be our goal in life, is to
Right.
leave a legacy to our children and our grandchildren.
Definitely.
And it should be how we lived our life to serve the King.
Definitely.
And so that to me was that was resonating, and also to be a comfort, you know, to be to just, you know, see a need and fill it. And there was a
Right.
need there. This was a
Right.
need that you filled, a need for Carol.
That's right.
Also for other people that may not have known Brad, but you know, maybe they have, and they just wanted also, as you said, closure. But I think this venue right now that we are with a network, if you will, can be a beautiful venue, as opposed to some of the other things that are going on the networks. And because you think in terms of a net, you know, and
Sure.
a spider net.
Sure.
And, but this is a net where there's just so many things that can be captured and so many ways of gathering. And I love it. I think it's needed for such a time as this. There's so many people that need to gather, and it's really a connection. I mean, I feel connected with you on this. I feel connected with all the people, even if I don't have a face or a person, and I'm connecting with the chat room or something. I always feel connected. I mean, I feel like I reach out and hug them, you know, and I try to hug them with my words and think. But to me, it's the way that right now that we can reach a lot of people and help a lot of people, and just fan the flame of Yah in their lives. That's my goal. I just want to see people. You can do it. You can do it. And that's one thing I've learned in life. There's nothing that if we put our mind and our heart to, and if it's in the will of the Father, it's attainable. It's attainable, Mark.
Sure, I'm with you.
So I applaud you. I mean, we've, you know.
Well, once again, it's there's just not even an option in most ways. But all right, well, let's wind it up. Thanks, Abigail, once again, and we'll be back next week. As far as I'm concerned, next week we'll talk about the Navy and move on into whatever else we got going. And so, Abigail, I love you to death. You're just the best there is, and I just you're the best. Appreciate you so much.
Appreciate you too. Love you. Love Adina. Love your whole family. Love this opportunity. Thank you. Shalom.
Say hi to the governor for me.
I will. This is being here, believe me.
All right. God bless everybody. We will see you next time.
We are richly blessed to bring you what we believe is the fullest, most diverse, yet up-to-date progressive teachings, discussion, and prayer programming you can find anywhere on this planet. Be sure to take the tour of the MessianicLambRadio.com website. I'm Susan Hoogie, thanking you for joining us on the Messianic Lamb Video Network.
I, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, do solemnly swear.
I, Dwight D. Eisenhower, do solemnly swear.
I, Barack Hussein Obama, do solemnly swear.
That I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States.
The Constitution of the United States.
The Constitution of the United States. So help me God.